Hi everyone! Today is going to be a beginner's lesson about verbs. So, verbs 101 if you will. First of all, what is a verb? Well, as you probably already know, a verb is an action. So, to do, to speak, to love, to call, to go, those are all actions, so those are all verbs. A verb is built in two parts. First, there's the radical, or the stem, or the root, you can choose however you want to call it, and the ending. Let's start with the ending because that's the tricky part. French, just like English, is a language in which the verbs are inflected. That means that the verbs are conjugated. And that means that the ending changes depending on not only what the verb tense is, so past, future, present, conditional, but also on the subject of the verb. So in English, for instance, you say I do and you say he does. That's an inflection. That's a conjugation. It's the same in French, except that we have more of them. Then there's the radical. The radical never changes no matter what happens. So no matter what the subject is, no matter what the verb tense is, the radical stays the same. But of course, you have irregular verbs, and irregular verbs have a different radical. But let's focus on the regular verbs first. So in French, verbs are split into three groups depending on the way they're conjugated. First of all, there's the ER group, the first group. That's about 90% of the verbs. So if you learn the conjugation for the ER group, then you know how to conjugate 90% of the verbs in French. So that's great. Um, let's take for example parler. Je parle, tu parles, il parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, il parle. That means to speak. So as you can see, the stem never changes. It stays PARL all the time. And this is great. But the ending changes. First it's E, then ES, then E again, then ONS, then EZ, then ENT. So if you learn those 6 endings, then you're set for all of the ER verbs. They're all conjugated the same way. For example, aimer, to love, is conjugated the same exact way. You just keep the first part of the verb, and then you add the ending that you see on the screen. So this is great. Then there's the second group, the IR group. So let's take, for example, finir. To finish, to end. Je finis, tu finis, il finit, nous finissons, vous finissez, ils finissent. So all of the second group verbs are conjugated that way. Again, the first part of the verb, the stem doesn't change, so it stays FIN all the time. And then there's the third group. But I don't want to talk about the third group today because those are all of the irregular verbs. So they're all different. And they require a little bit more work, but it's important to learn them. So we'll come back to that later. If you have any questions about this really basic stuff, let me know. So thank you. Have a nice day.